What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Contractor Secrets Podcast. Really cool episode. I'm going to take you through the estimates that I did. I don't know if you guys saw on my Instagram. I had Eric with Pathfinder Marketing visit me. We did a ride around. He came and kind of went through my estimate process, and it was a little surprising, the results, and you're going to hear about it in this episode. So I'm excited to see what you think. If you have any feedback on this, hit me up on Instagram at Contractor Coach. Would love to hear your feedback. Would love to connect with you. Thank you so much. Enjoy.
Contractors all over the world are wanting more time, more freedom, more impact. The way we do this is through implementing systems, processes, standards. Welcome to the Contractor Secrets Podcast. Here we hit business strategy, coaching, mindset, motivation, the tools you need for success. So strap in, listen up, and get ready to grow on the Contractor Secrets Podcast.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Contractor Secrets Podcast. Listen, yesterday was an awesome day. Actually, I had Eric with Pathfinder Marketing. He came down to come see me, and he did a ride along with me. And we set up 4 estimates to do. And man, it was great, But man, it was an eye opener. Let's put it this way: we went 0 for 4, and I have no shame in saying that. It's really interesting to be able to relate. When we hear frustrations from our clients and coaching sessions and what Eric does and what I do, and we always, we're trying to help. That's always number one. But we hear the frustrations behind not closing deals, and it's easy from the coach's chair to be like, do this, do that, do this, do that. When in reality, sometimes you just can't close it. And when you have a streak of those, you can get a little skewed in terms of your outlook of how sales actually works and how it goes. So I have some takeaways that I want to share with you, because going 0 for 4 on the day of the estimate is one thing, but going 0 for 4 after you do the estimates is another. So let's start off with, I'm going to take you through each estimate, and I want to help you see how valuable the process is, and if you don't follow the process, you're going to miss out. Leaders capitalize on opportunity. And I want you to understand that just because it was a no on the day of the estimate, if you're doing in-home sales, it's not going to be a no in the future. So that's why doing the estimate on the spot is so valuable, because you have really expressed everything you need to express, and you got the feedback that you need. So you have a powerful follow-up afterwards, right? So in other words, like if you're going to a house, looking at it and just shooting out an email, you have missed the opportunity to handle that objection or to see what the objection was. So if you don't sell a job on the spot, then at the very least, you need to understand why. Like that has to be at least something that you walk away with. To me, that's the next best thing to currency being in my hand, is the reason why, or what they thought the budget was going to be, right? So at the very least, you want to leave with one of those two things. So the first estimate him and I went to, it was a new construction house. And this is the fault of my admin in my office. I love her to death, but she answers the phones, she does some intake for us, and she she took on this new construction job, which we don't do, but it was the exterior, and there was just a lot of caulking and filling, but the majority of the job is something that we could do. So for the sake of just, wanting to do the full process, we did it. And going through the process with this couple, the big thing that I noticed is, like, the husband is a trim carpenter, so he's a DIY man, does it all himself. And this is the one thing that he's subbing out. He's building the house, and he does not want to paint the exterior. So, obviously emphasizing the value of paying us was one of the big things, but, emphasizing time, right? It's a new construction house. They want this thing done. So as him and I are going through the sales process, we're talking about, how quickly we're going to be able to get it done to the standard of which we're going to do it. It's their forever home. So we're going to, treat it with love and care, and have 4 team members there, and, building the value, building the relationship, laughing, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of great rapport built. His wife was heavily involved in the decision making process. I could tell that she was the one asking the tough questions. And when it came down to pricing, we sat in the car, came up with the price. If you guys aren't using my pricing calculator, that's what we used to come up with the price. And for legitimacy, I got the little wheelie and I wheeled around the house, figured out all the wall space of the structure to identify as close as possible how much paint we're going to need. So really, just wanted to create that super legitimate experience. Um, and narrow down the price perfectly. So what we did was we came up with three prices, the lowest of which was 99.95, and that was at a 40% margin. The second price was 10.4. No. The second price was 10.8 at 45%, and then the opening price was 11.5 at 50% margin. So that's another thing. Those of you who listen to this, you should have three prices for every job. I know that sounds crazy, but for me, everything is negotiable. Any painting contractor or any other contractor listening to this would 1000% accept the job at a 40% profit margin, would 1000% accept the job at a 45% profit margin, and would 1000% accept the job at a 50% profit margin. Okay. Once we start getting below 30, obviously that's when the red flags raise. But this is the game of sales. So looked at Eric. I said, listen, we're gonna go in at 11.5 and we're gonna see what happens. So I go out there, got the iPad. Of course, we built the quote with Dripjobs. Got the iPad, beautiful presentation, looks great. Customer goes, okay, great. So I have an estimate scheduled tomorrow at 1 and the next day at 4. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, she's really passionate about these estimates. So I didn't just, back down. I said, hey, listen, just curious. Are you the type of person that will not make a decision no matter what this price is without getting estimates? She said, absolutely. I've been burned before. Estimates help me gauge what the pricing is. I have no clue what this should cost, and I'm not making a decision until I get more estimates. And what I learned is in that scenario, and of course, I have a little leisure because we're about 6 weeks out. And part of me didn't even really want this job because it's just how much work it was and what it would have done to my team. But, in the sake of just having someone with you in a ride along, you want to push the needle a little bit. But part of me was like, we've built so much rapport here. There's no one that's going to come out here and be this professional. Everything that we were saying to them, they were, it felt like they were eating out of the palm of our hand in terms of just likability. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the last thing I want to do in this situation is try to negotiate because I could totally feel that no matter what I did, and I even said it, I said, even if I negotiate with you, are you still going to get more prices? She said, absolutely. Because to her, this customer specifically, it wasn't about the price. It was just making sure that whatever she did pay was fair and she didn't know what to pay. And I knew that because when I asked them earlier if they'd ever hired a painting contractor before, they said no. Her husband always did it, right? So for them, they have a different view of home service, right? And it's kind of taboo to them. They're used to doing everything themselves. And then when it comes time to pay for things, I could see why they're skeptical. So I backed down from this one. I didn't press, I didn't negotiate, I didn't try to sell it. And for me, I think it was the smart move. I'm going to hold firm at my 50% price, knowing the difficulty of this job. I'm okay if they don't move forward. And chances are, I think they are going to move forward, to be honest, at the price that I want to sell it for, instead of saying, hey, I could do it for 10.4 if you book with me today. Well, that might even create an unhappy customer because if I did kind of persuade them to do that, then the whole time she's going to wonder if she got a good deal or not. So, takeaway number one, if you have done everything up until that point perfect, and you get somebody that is adamant about getting quotes, like adamant. And let me explain to you the difference between adamant and bluffing. Okay. Because listen, we all get that objection. I'm going to get more quotes. I'm not saying back down every time you hear it. I've sold plenty of jobs with people that have said that. But there's a difference between being very general about that and being very specific. Let me give you an example. Mrs. Jones, here's your quote. This is what it'll be if you want us to come out. And they go, "Okay, all right, well, I still need to get a couple more quotes." Oh, okay. So that means that after seeing that price that scared you so much, you want to go get more quotes. Oh, okay. So that means you got to go source contractors, schedule appointments, right? So that's somebody that isn't serious about getting more quotes in terms of finding out of whether or not they're getting a good price. That's someone that's just scared of your price. And you need to learn how to decipher the difference. The second one, in this case, this lady, she said, "Well, I have a quote tomorrow at 2 and I have one the next day at 4, whatever." So I could tell that like she's very serious about these quotes and she's specific about them. And again, it would be silly to negotiate with someone like that because no matter what I do, that's not what she wants. She wants just to know she's getting a good deal. And she doesn't know that until she gets more quotes. So takeaway number 1, there are some people that are going to get more quotes no matter what. If you've done everything up until that point perfect, you should leave that opportunity feeling empowered. But here's the cool thing. And this is what I was talking to you guys about, the part of the process where you get an opportunity to feel that pushback, right? So in other words, like if I just emailed this lady a quote, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to hear how valuable getting those quotes were to her, right? So on the follow up, obviously she said her last quote, which would be today at 4. So I can call at 5 o'clock. And at that point, now I can negotiate if I want to. Okay. Because she has all the information she needs. And when I say she has all the information she needs, I don't just mean she has the prices of these other contractors. She has their tonality. She has the feeling that they gave her when they were at the house. She has the skill sets that they may possess or not possess. So, again, being a confident salesperson, it's like, okay, get those quotes. I'm going to call you and we're going to talk about them if I really want your business, right? So that's the leverage that I have, okay? Because I was first. And then, of course, I know when to call. And it might even be wise for you to say, okay, well, when would be the best time for me to follow up with you? And that gives you kind of the opportunity to get some sort of commitment to where they're going to be looking forward to your call and they're actually going to listen to you on the phone because you've agreed to call and you were, polite about it. So that was takeaway number 1. That was a really good one because Eric and I were both like, man, like there's no way I would negotiate with this lady. It'd just be a waste of money. So not everyone is negotiable. That's number 1. All right. So second estimate. Oh man, this one was tough because I had actually nurtured this one for a little over a week because I wanted to land it on the day Eric was coming. So I called her a few times, and just kind of like she sounded like such a sweet lady, and I'm like, oh, this one's a lock, like based on my previous experiences, like this type of customer is a lock. Old lady, husband, they've been in the house for 20 years, they want to freshen it up, you know, the whole story. So I get there and she says at the door, "Hey, my husband's sick, so he won't be engaging with us today." And I'm like, "Oh no." No, like that's not good, but I obviously my first concern was like, "Oh, I hope he's okay," and then second concern was like, that's not good for sales, when we only got one wing of the airplane. So Eric and I were like, "All right, well, let's keep hitting it," So we go in there always asking what's the story, what is the story, what is the reason we're doing this, want to freshen it up. And then she tells me that she's moving. This is where the curveball was, because whenever I hear that someone's moving initially, and you guys hear me on this podcast, is like, hey, we got to get this done quick. So immediately I'm shifting gears. I'm like, all right, great. So before we move any further, I just want to let you know the earliest we can get in here would be within 2 weeks. So a normal customer would be like, "Oh, that's amazing. That's perfect. All right." So then I'm checking the box, building that rapport. And she goes, "Oh, well, I don't need this done until the end of September." So I'm like, "What?" That was super confusing for me. And Eric looked at me. I'm like, "Whoa, that was like, okay, all right. So you're not really in a rush," or and then we kind of like breezed over that. And then I was like, all right, well, let's do a walkthrough. And then she was like, "Oh, I want flat paint on the walls." I'm like, "Oh, like, do you want satin? Like typically we do satin. It comes out a lot better." And no, 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 I want flat. I'm like, okay, all right, no problem. Have you chosen a color? She's like, "Yeah, I just kind of want like a white." And I'm like, all right, well, did you want to do like bright white on the ceilings and bright white on the trim? She's like, "No, no, no. I want to do the same color on the ceiling, walls, and trim." And I'm like, well, if you're selling the house, like you probably want to do it this way just because in my experience, it looks really appealing. It looks really good. We can offer you a free color consultation if you're having trouble. She's like, no, I don't want bright white. I'm like, why aren't you selling the house? Like, she was like, no, well, we're living here for another year because if we do something with our mortgage, we don't have to pay closing costs. And then I'm thinking like, whoa, like now I'm like way off track, right? Like, and there was actually like this little bit of pushback from this lady. And I'm like, this is the total opposite of what I need to create right now. This lady and I feel like I'm arguing with this lady about time frame and colors. Like, what else are, you know? So that was like really weird. And then I'm like, all right, well, no problem. Like, we'll do it all the same color. Like, do you want your doors in freaking trim flat, like two, or can I put some semi gloss on them, And anyway, so I go there and the husband's on the couch, right? And super sweet man. He was just very, very friendly. He's like, oh, I'm just not feeling well. And then I found out that the gentleman had cancer. And I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like really struggling here. And at this point, I'm like, dude, Eric, we are not like in my head, I'm like, we're not pushing these people to make a decision. Like, there's just certain scenarios where like you do not want to push people, And in this scenario, I'm not going to press this lady because her husband's like out of it, and like it just didn't feel right, right? So, you know, ethics in sales is really important. That's that's number 2 here. And it was just one of those feelings like I can resonate with that. Like maybe she's just really stressed out. Like after I found out that he had cancer because he had said something about his cancer medicine kicking in, like it helped me understand maybe this lady's under a lot of stress. Maybe she's not thinking straight, maybe she deals with more than I could possibly imagine. And for me, that was really just like, oh, okay, all right. She's not like super tough and like giving me a hard time. Maybe she's just stressed out, and it's like, I don't want to be that salesperson in that moment. Right. So that was an interesting one. That was an eye opener for me, just not just gone in for the sale. But I did want to make sure that I did my job. So again, we regained our balance. We emphasized all the value points. We found out what was really important. And then I asked him a really important question. I said, one of the first things he said to me that when I walked in was that you plan on getting 3 quotes. Where did that come from? Have you had a bad experience before? And the husband actually, he was laying on the couch. He actually was like, listen, we'll be honest with you. We have been here for X amount of years. We have not met a contractor worth a damn. And he's like, the guys who did the concrete did this. The guys who do the lawn care did this. And I'm like, these people have been through a lot of contractor pain. So I said, listen, I want to be the one contractor that you look back on and say, that was a legitimate company. And even just right there, when heard me say that, I looked him right in the eyes, like I could see, like I got the nod of approval, and it's like that was important, And again, asking the right questions, right? So when we presented the price, I obviously did not press her to make a decision. I said, "Would you like to move forward?" I did always ask, and she said, "No, no, no. I need to get my other quotes, and my husband's not feeling well." And I'm like, "All right, we're not gonna have you go into the room and be my mediator." So at that point, though, I did notice when Eric and I went outside to do the quote that her house needed to be pressure washed. It was really bad, and the front porch could use a coat of stain. And I said, "Listen, I want to do something for you." I said, I want to earn your business, number 1. But number 2, I want to make you feel like you're getting an amazing deal. I looked at the outside of your house. It could really use a pressure wash, especially if you plan on selling it. Even though it's going to be a year from now, it'll still last, especially with how long it's been. Not only that, I want to do a nice coat of stain on your front porch. And she goes, how much is that going to cost me? I said, listen, if you allow me to earn your business, I'll give you till Monday. I will do both of those free of charge for you. And I stuck out my hand and I shook her hand and I said, please let me know by Monday. And I could see that little bit was one of those things where it was like, okay, like to us, maybe what, $300 to her, pulls up to her house every day, walks into that front door, sees not only a dirty house and a front porch that needed to be stained. So I left her with something. I gave her a reason to remember me. I gave her a reason for me. Well, I gave myself a reason for me to call and say, hey, listen, remember I told you about the pressure wash and the front porch? Well, my offer's still good. Are you ready to move forward? Today's the last day I can offer that for you. Right? So instead of like leaving thinking, man, what could I have done differently? I always want to leave with something. So in that case, that's what I did. So that was number 2. And again, just situationally, wow, very emotionally charged, but still pretty good. So number 3, I let Eric do it. And this one was like, oh my God, this one's weird. But he did really well. So we went in, and those of you who know the game, like you get these customers. First of all, the big red flag is that they wanted like the color red on baseboards in certain rooms and black on the walls and like red accents and like, you know, crazy colors, man. And it wasn't even the whole house. It was like 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, and a little loft. It was incredibly difficult to price, but I just came up with a daily price and then multiplied it by two of what I would charge for 2 days worth of work. Made it super easy. I wasn't going to like, you know, go crazy on the pricing here. Um, but again, the interesting thing was is that there were two people that answered the door. One person was extremely engaged. When we went to go do our pricing, the person who was like interacting with us, which seemed to be the person that was going to be paying for this job, he's like, "All right, I got to go to work," and he left. So we're presenting the price to someone that's not even going to be making the financial decision. She told us, she's like, "Well, I need to talk to him. He's the one paying for it." Great. So, again, like, when situationally, right? You got, these three estimates. I'm thinking, man, this is crazy. And I know some of us run into this. And what I need you to know is that this is a game of the law of averages. What we are looking for are a few things. Number one, our ideal job, and number two, our ideal customer. And Eric and I both looked at each other after that. He did a great job presenting, and I said, you know, this is all about reps. Like, and when I tell people to invest in marketing, or when Eric obviously does marketing and he pushes people on it, it's like you need as many opportunities of that as possible. You need to, number one, get reps in your presentation. You need to get reps in asking the right questions. You need to get reps in feeling out different personalities and people. You need to get reps in presenting a quote. You need to get reps in asking for the sale. You need to get reps in reading the room. You need to get reps in, again, all of these things. And he mentioned to me, he said, Tanner, some people tell me, well, they only want their bedroom painted and they don't even go to the estimate, right? And I'm thinking, dude, that's the biggest mistake you can make. You're missing out on a rep, right? You're missing out on a rep to learn how to upsell. You're missing out on a rep to learn how to gauge whether or not that customer is malleable, right? Can be swayed to do more work than just a bedroom. And if they just get the bedroom, cool. You have a little bedroom to paint, maybe a filler, right? So the mindset is that in the beginning of your business, if you're doing under $750,000 in a year, like every opportunity is an opportunity to get better. So even though this one wasn't ideal, we still priced it, we presented it, we emailed it, came out to $3,400, still a good, decent job, right? Come with the follow up. Hey, has your son had a chance to look at it, right? So again, maybe it wasn't the ideal one, but going to be authentic here and say we're 0 for 3 right now. All right. So number 4, this one was probably the best one because she heard about my company from church. Friend had her house painted. I want to talk about this one because it's really important. Okay. Interesting scenario. She's moving out of this house, moving into a new one. She wants both of them painted. Obviously, the new one can't be touched until she closes. The one she's in now is full of furniture. And when I walk in there, obviously, what's the story? Oh, we're moving. Okay, great. Have you chosen colors yet for this? No, I haven't yet. I mean, just want something neutral, perfect. Obviously, time frame is of the essence. When do you want this done? Oh, I want it done on this day. And can you help me with that? I said, yes, absolutely. We have an opening. Great. All right. So what do you want done? All right. We can do ceiling, walls, trim, and doors. And she's like, oh, well, I kind of want the trim done and I kind of want the ceiling done, obviously all the walls. And I'm thinking in my head, like, this is going to be like 8 grand to 10 grand. And I'm thinking, I know that this lady doesn't want to drop all that money on this house. There's no way. So I looked at Eric and I'm like, I kind of gave him the shrug, like, and then I said to the lady, I said, Miss, honestly, for this house, just do the walls. I mean, the trim looks fine. The ceiling looks okay. You can just clean the vents. I mean, if you're just renting this house out, I'm sorry. She was renting it out. Sorry. Not selling, renting. I said, if just do the walls. And she looked at me as if like I was her hero, because she's like, really, you think? Like, yeah, I'm like, you're gonna save thousands of dollars. Let's just do the walls. And then obviously on your new house, we could do everything. And obviously I knew that on the new house, like, yeah, like of course maybe we'll get a little bit bigger of a job. But really like looking at the best interest of this rental that she's about to put on the market, like just freshen up the walls will do the trick, right? And like sometimes you need to downsell in order to make sure that you're doing what's in the best interest of your customer. Like if you're not selling what's in the best interest of your customer, then you're not really doing a good service. You're just trying to make money. And that was a good one because what it did was it kind of really just built some trust. Like she opened up, she was like super talkative and telling us about her new house and like, so when it came time to pricing, her husband wasn't there, and again, this was like a really big eye opener for me. It's like typically I'm not too worried about both decision makers being there, but I will say that it might be wise for you to try to ensure that. Now, you don't have to, but again, like it just makes things so much easier, in a really easy way. If you're on the phone with a potential customer, is like, hey, just curious, like typically we like to do a nice presentation. Um, will both decision makers, or I wouldn't say both, I would say like, will all the decision makers, like whoever's in charge of making a decision for the project, be present? Because if like they're single or whatever, so yeah, you could say it like that. But yeah, that might be wise for you. Like again, I can't even knock that. I can't even say that's not a good thing because it really is. Like, in some cases it doesn't work out and you just got to do what we did today. But you should always ask. Anyway, her husband was out of town or whatever, and of course, like that was a big deciding factor. And for me, like I never make people make a decision without their spouse. Like that to me is super important. I'm a husband. I wouldn't want anyone doing that to us. So for me, I was like, okay, well, listen, when I presented the price, she said, well, hey, I have a question for you. I said, what? She said, the garage could really use a coat of paint. And I said, oh, okay, let me go look at it. So I looked at it, came back, and this is while we're presenting the price. And I said, hey, listen, all right, so we're at like $36.50. Typically, I would charge you $650 to do that garage. If you let me know within 24 hours, I will do the garage plus the house for an even $4,000. So in other words, I'm giving her a reason to call her husband and say, listen, honey, I need you to look at this estimate. I'm going to email it to you. Okay. And that is what we want. Again, so takeaway number 4 is to leave them with something. I think that was one of the other takeaways, but whatever. You guys get the idea. Okay. So going through the 4 estimates, number 1, not everyone is going to be negotiable. Okay. And you got to understand that. Again, I had 4 totally different types of people. And in any case, you would think like, man, I would 0 for 4, but the sale is not done, right? I'm going to follow with each one of them. On the first one, I'm going to talk to her about how her estimates went. On the second one, I'm going to ask if she had thought about the opportunity for me to do the pressure wash and the concrete stain and ask her how her husband's feeling. Number 3, I really don't want this one, but I'm still going to call and just say, hey, your son had an opportunity to check it out. What did you guys think? And number 4, I'm going to say, hey, did you want to take advantage of that garage floor discount or garage wall discount that I gave you? And when you have leverage on your follow up, it just makes it so much easier, right? If you have nothing to give, what's the incentive? Money, right? I mean, you could always drop the price. So that's what I got for you. It was a really enlightening day. Again, 0 for 4 doesn't mean 0 for 4. It means what are you going to do after that, right? Like what are you going to turn that into? And I believe that I'm at least going to get 3 of those. Again, I don't want that third one. But yeah, so I'm gonna at least get 3 of those for sure. I'm gonna call and just build more of a relationship, build off of what I've built. And that is how you do sales. Like you have to understand that opportunity needs to be created and people need to be persuaded. That is how sales works. So if you got anything from this, I'd love to hear your feedback. I hope this was helpful. Um, More to come. Definitely want to keep hitting the sales process and helping you guys convert your leads to sales and helping you take your business to the next level. So thank you guys for listening to the Contractor Secrets podcast, and I hope to have you as a guest sometime, maybe on a business breakthrough or as a Dripjobs user. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much for checking out the Contractor Secrets podcast. Stick around. I am going to drop in a short testimonial that one of our awesome heavy hitters in Dripjobs had agreed to give out for us. So if you want to hear a little bit about how Dripjobs is helping contractors, stick around for the end of this episode and you can listen in. What's up, everyone? I'm here with my good friend Danny V, Atlanta. Him and I shared some good time at the PCA Expo, but we've been friends before that. He actually came on a business breakthrough at one point in time. We went over sales and some other good things. He is a very, very professional at this point, Dripjobs user. You've been using it now for about 6-7 months. And you've agreed to do this little spotlight. And this is really just to showcase, what it is. Really, it's a direct help for me so I can continue to, get Dripjobs as many people's hands as possible, bro. So tell me, before you signed up, man, what was the apprehension? And did Dripjobs exceed your expectations?
Yeah, definitely, absolutely, man. I didn't have any type of system, any type of software, so I had no idea what to expect, to be honest with you. And I was just like, hey, when I read about it, when I heard you talking about it, through podcast, or through the group, on Facebook, I was just like, maybe I need to give it a try. Let me try to see what it's all about, and if it's worth my investment. So, I just kind of took that leap, man, and I was like, let's go, let's do it.
Now, in retrospect, that was a good question. But now, when you look back, and what's going on now, would you say that it's been worth the investment?
Oh man, it's absolutely, man. I mean, without a doubt, like I always say, it totally changed, the way it changed my life, the business, and the way I do things. The face of the company, looks more professional, um, keeping everything in, structured, organization,
Yeah.
uh, and so, just so, it's a friendly user, man. It's easy to use once you get the hang of it. And after that is,
Cake.
it's just easy. Yeah, man, it's cake, man. So
Yeah.
so I'm enjoying it, man. And I mean, there's so much I can say, man. I definitely encourage people to really invest in it, man. It's a really, really good investment for your business.
Let me ask you this: has it helped you sell more jobs?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Now,
I so there's a few things that I learned. I catch a few things from you as well. So before I got Drip Jobs, I was doing quotes when I got home after a long day of work. And now I don't leave the homeowner's house
there you
with
go.
without me finishing that quote and presenting it to them and potentially selling it. So now I don't come home
I love
looking
that.
into doing quotes. So I would say that was one of my biggest things. And man, it dreaded on me. I'm like, man, I gotta go home and do these quotes. Now it's just like I enjoy doing quotes on the spot. I got drip jobs, you know what I mean? It's gonna take me 15, 20 minutes, do this quote and let's sell it. And I
And
don't
the
have to worry about it.
customers love that, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. They're like,
Even if
oh
it's a high price, but they just love the idea. Like when you tell them, like, "Oh, I'm gonna go in the car and work up your quote for you," they're like, "Really?"
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. They were like, oh, okay. I was like, yeah, I'll be right back. I'm just getting in my truck, work the quote out. We're going to discuss it. And I've been able to get more jobs, definitely,
Hundred
selling
percent,
them on the spot.
100%. It's gonna happen. So we wanted to make it. So do you have people? Are you using it on the iPad when you do it?
So I always carry, for some reason, I always carry my Mac to do to
That's
do
good.
it while I'm doing it on in my truck, and then I take my iPad with me and have them sign on there
Love that.
and
Yeah,
whatnot. So I use
that's
both
good.
of them.
That's
Yeah,
good, man. So
yeah.
last part of this, man, dude, thank you first for showcasing the value. But if somebody's listening to this and they're like, man, I can't see paying $147 a month for software, right? Like to the average consumer in comparison to like Joist, which is like cheap as dirt, and some of the other things. What would you say to that person about the 147?
Man, if to look at it from my perspective, I would be like, hey, man, look at 147 divided by how many jobs you get in the month. And before you know it, it's just like, okay, $10. This goes $10 towards drip jobs. And before you know it, I mean, it's paid within the month. And I mean, literally, if you want to count one job, you can pay with one job, you can pay drip jobs, to be
Well,
honest with you.
honestly, if it's a good size job, you could pay for drip jobs for 3 years.
There you
Uh,
go. Yeah.
if drip jobs picked up a job that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten through maybe an automated message that went out 2-3 weeks later.
Mhm.
There's so much here, man. But Danny, dude, this is great. I think somebody listening to this probably got some value. You're the man as always, one of our biggest drip jobs fans. And
Thanks,
good.
man.
I appreciate you, man.
Absolutely, anytime, man. I mean,
Uh,